Hello, hello. We are going live. Hello, thank you for joining me for part two of a three-segment series called Thriving versus Surviving in Love, Marriage, and Life. And the question is, where do you stand? So I'm doing this series as a preview and introduction to a program that's going to be launching very, very soon. And I want to tell you about the program, but first I want to tell you a little bit about what it's about and why I am doing this three-part series, because it highlights the possibilities for couples to go to the next level, no matter what they are experiencing in their relationship. And the good thing about one of the things that I enjoy the most about this process and this series is that um, the tools that couples discover in this process are tools that can be applied in any relationship. So that's my mission, and that's what this is all about. So let's get started. Okay, so this process in part one, I illustrated an example of what a relationship that is barely surviving, and the couple in that part. I shared what their struggle was, and also supported what they could do to work through it and get on the spectrum, get on the path toward thriving. Now, I could have given an example of a couple that was in worse shape than Reggie and Regina, but I wanted to share a story about a couple who hit a glitch and found a way to turn it into growth, healing, growth, and getting on the path toward lasting love and thriving. So, part two. So, part two is about couples who they're not barely surviving and they're not thriving. It's like they're somewhere in between on the spectrum. And so I'm going to share with you a story about a couple that I'm calling Andy and Amelia, and a little bit about their journey and what it looks like and how their situation was a wake up call for them to confront the comfort in their marriage. I mean, they were comfortable, they weren't in trouble, they were comfortable. And they were getting kind of bored, to tell you the truth, especially one of them. So let me just share briefly what the three categories are about. So thriving couples, they're resilient, the relationship is built on understanding, active communication, mutual support. And when they connect with each other, they bring out the best in each other. Guess what? Even during conflict. Can you imagine that? Even during conflict. So, because what they do is they address the issues head on, they get through them, they make repairs because people's feelings get hurt during conflict. So they deal with it, get through it, and get back on the path. Actually, that's part of being on the path. So couples that are barely surviving, they're together, but they're often in conflict. So sometimes they're just going through the motions of being in a relationship. And when they're in conflict, the very worst comes out in them. And they wind up feeling resentful, frustrated, and bitter because what's not resolved keeps simmering beneath the surface. And one tiny thing could lead to a blow up or an explosion. So couples who are in between, and that's the couple that I'm going to cover today, they have moments of thriving and they have moments of barely surviving. So they have a mixed bag of good times and bad times. And so during conflict, sometimes the worst comes out, and they're in the process of learning how to bring out the best during conflict. So that's going to be part of their journey. All right. So um, Amelia and Andy. So Amelia grew up in a family that was it was a warm family, and so they focused on stability. Not a lot about passion, but they had their warm and fuzzy uh, connection with each other. And so um, she decided that her love relationship and her marriage didn't have to be real passionate to be successful. So she enjoyed being in a peaceful relationship with Andy, but it didn't have any spark. Didn't have what it had more in the beginning, because that romantic stage is different from what it turns out anywhere from 2 minutes to 2 years later. Now, Andy, he was he grew up in a family that had lots of fun, and there was like a lot of energy and a lot of passion in his family. So um, it was like that in the beginning, but at some point things changed, and what he witnessed and what he lived with was his parents' struggle with their marriage and the strain that it had on them and the strain that it had on the family. And so he thought, in the beginning, marriage would be wonderful. But after he saw what happened to them, he thought commitment was not the first thing that he wanted to do. So he was comfortable with um, don't stir the, what is it called? Don't get things stirred up kind of mindset. So when they came together, they had a pretty comfortable relationship. Now, they've been married for a while. They've been married for like 20 years. And so when they came together, it's like the roles fit in beautifully. Amelia was the kind of person who could plan on things. So in terms of depending on each other, Andy would depend on her to get everything planned out, because that was not his thing. And Andy brought the fun to the party in terms of what they were doing together, or the energy in terms of getting things done that Amelia had planned. So they didn't argue very much. They also didn't have very many passionate, deep connecting kind of moments. So it worked okay for a while, actually for a few years. And so it got to the point where Amelia wanted a little more. And it started off, she just wanted to have energetic, or at least a discussion about their future and their future plans. So Andy was a stay in the moment kind of person. And so he didn't want to talk about the future. He said, we have good jobs, we live well. So we'll be fine. We'll be fine. So, but one day he agreed with Amelia. He said, okay, all right, let's have a conversation. Let's go and talk to this financial planner. Remember, Amelia's a planner. Let's go talk to this planner and talk about retirement, because you want to make sure that we're still going to be okay financially when we retire. And so Amelia was geeked. She said, okay, so at least we're going to have this part taken care of, because we have all of this taken care of right now. But our future, we're going to have that planned, and I don't have to plan it by myself. Andy's going to come with me. Guess what happened? Andy didn't show up. So that turned out to be a big conflict. So anyway, they talked it through, didn't get resolved. Um, so they talked about that. And then later on, they began to talk about, well, Amelia started bringing up how she was feeling about their marriage and how she felt that the marriage had stagnated. Well, Andy really didn't want to hear that, and it got his attention because he was fine. He was fine the way things were. But she wanted more than their day to day routine. And she wanted, so she wanted more in terms of um, them creating more, having more energetic experiences together. Um, and he just wanted more sex. So if he thought if they just had more sex, they'd be okay. She wanted to have more emotional connection, and she thought that would be okay. So, what was their love lesson beneath the surface? To discover that they could have both, and that there was a process to get there, and that there was a way to bridge the gap from where they were to where they wanted to do. So, what they did was they started off with a relationship assessment. And I've talked about an assessment that I have that is free to anyone to take. But anyway, so they took a relationship assessment and they discovered their strengths as a couple. Um, they discovered their strengths as individuals. And they kind of knew what they were, but this was more concrete when they saw it in the results. And then they saw the areas that would be important for them to improve so that they could move more toward thriving together and enjoying each other more. So the reason why, well, and it was something that Amelia could commit to in terms of moving forward and having a process and getting on board. That was something that Amelia was really excited about. Andy was willing to commit to it because he was thinking, does that mean we're going to have more sex? Remember I said earlier, they could have both. So what happened was they discovered exactly what they needed to do to bridge that gap. And guess what happened? It started small steps. It started with they were having short conversations um, about um, what is it the other person needed and how they needed it, and how they could connect in a way that they could meet those needs. They learned each other's love languages, and I think most of you know about love languages. They learned each other's love languages and how to respond to that. Um, and they learned they discovered how to create the right exact plan for their future. And then they started to do other things to put more fun into their relationship. And this was right down Andy's alley because they started doing things like taking dancing classes together and doing things that brought more laughter to the relationship. Again, that was something that Andy loved. And it was something that Amelia wanted because it brought more energy into the relationship. They started laughing more. And, over time, and it was a short period of time, the respect that they had for each other and deepened. It grew. And, they even got to the place that they started talking about something that a lot of men don't feel comfortable talking about, and that's feelings. Feelings. And so their journey forward from a stagnant middle ground toward a more thriving partnership was in place. And it took some introspection. It took self understanding, self awareness. It took partner awareness. And when they found out what was needed, it took deliberate action to move forward. Both took responsibility for doing their part to make it happen. You see, both of them had the courage to look at the reality of what they were experiencing. And both had the motivation and the inspiration to move things forward, making a good relationship, a good enough relationship, better. So they represent a couple who was willing to look at the gray areas in the relationship. And so looking at it, figuring out what to do about it, um, they were able to paint their own picture for a brighter future. That was their love lesson beneath the surface. And they embraced it. So I just want to share with you. So, um, as a couple who was in between, they will continue because their work hasn't, they started. This is going to become part of their lifestyle. They're part of how they're going to show up for each other, for themselves and each other on a continuing basis. So they're going to be communicating more at a deeper level, um, consistently, so that they can feel their closeness more. They're going to focus more on, continue to focus on increasing their compassionate and empathetic understanding of each other's and each other's needs. And they are going to continue to make sure to make each other a priority. They make their work a priority. And now they're going to also make their relationship a priority. So that's the in between couple between barely surviving and thriving, moving toward in the direction of thriving. So I have a question for you. So can you relate to Amelia and Andy? Are you feeling that your relationship is comfortable? You're in a good enough zone, and maybe you're stagnating a little bit between you're in that in between space between you're not barely surviving and you're not quite thriving yet. um, is your day-to-day life filled with responsibilities and routine without the balance of having a deep emotional, spiritual, and physical connection with each other? Do you have enough relaxation individually and with each other? Are you enjoying enough laughter? Are you stuck with having shallow conversations? If you're not having enough of any of these, then my question to you is, are you ready to get results like Amelia and Andy? So like I said in the beginning, I'm going to be sharing with you about this program that's going to be launching very, 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 very soon. I'm so excited about it. So if you are interested in having results like Andy and Amelia and Reggie and Regina, I talked about them last time, then I'd like to have a conversation with you. Um, I'd like to have a conversation with you about um, this new program that I'm developing. In that program, you'll together you will be introduced to the basic step to, if you're barely surviving, you will be able to use this tool to go to the next level. If you are in between thriving and surviving, this basic tool will move you toward thriving. If you're already thriving, this basic tool will support you to go to an even higher level. All of them supporting you to deepen your bond with each other, to work together and build together to have more. There's nothing wrong with having more in your relationship. Things that you can do together without losing who you are, without losing your independence. You'll be able to work together. I like the term with interdependence. Two independent people, two whole people working together, building something wonderful. And if you're already there, even more wonderful. Jesse and I used to talk about the we factor. There's something about having that kind of unity. We looked at it as having your own personal mastermind between the two of you. And for those of you who know about mastermind and how it worked in business, it's like people prospered in terms of working together in perfect peace and harmony. That's what Napoleon Hill talked about. Can you imagine what could happen and how you could go further if you had that as the base, as the foundation of your relationship? So, all three of what I just shared about deepening your bond, leaning on each other when needed, working together as two whole people, developing something greater for the two of you, and a mastermind and a we like state together. All three of those have to be in place to strengthen the foundation of your relationship. Those are the three parts that I focus on when I'm working with couples. So, here's more about the program. Um, these tools are going to support each couple individually and together to develop a mindset in alignment with a skill set for staying on the path to thriving together. All three of those areas I call like universal principles for success. So, in this program, there's something very special about this program because it's the first time that it will be offered. It's offered as a pilot program. It's going to be similar and different from the live 2-day weekend workshops for couples that Jesse and I offered for over 20 years. For over 20 years. So it's going to be different. One of the ways it's going to be different is going to one of the ways it's going to be different is instead of Jesse, the two of us doing it together, it'll just be me doing it. The other difference is it's going to be online instead of live. There will be more of a personal connection during the 8 weeks than we were able to do in the 2-day workshop. The focus is going to be on developing a mindset and a skill set that supports thriving in relationship. So the other difference is that since this is offered for the first time, couples who enrolled in this program will be founding members. As founding members, there will be perks. Perks that will not be available when I offer the program again. So in this setting, for this first time, both of you will be working with other couples in the program, with me and other couples in the program, to shape the program. Now, I have ideas about what I think would work, but what makes the program even better is having input from couples who are going through the program so that they can share with me and each other the ideas that I have, the ones that are really working for them and resonating for them and helping them to stay on track. That's the first perk. The second perk is that you'll be able to enroll at a very special enrollment rate, which will be 1/4 of what it will be when I offer it again. The third perk is that you will have lifetime access to any and everything that is developed while you're in the program and after. You'll have access to, because I keep evolving and I keep coming up with new ideas, and so therefore there will be more resources. You will have access to all of that. So this program is for couples who are inspired to take this step together and to do the work together and to take responsibility for doing their part to support success. It is not for couples who choose not to engage in the process because there are very specific steps for success. So if it's like, if they're thinking, I'm too tired, there's too much, what my mother used to say, water under the bridge, there's too much hurt, there's too much pain, it's been going on too long. this is not the program for you, because it's upbeat, but it's for you if you want to do the work and you see the possibilities for the two of you. So if you would like to have support to go to the next level and are willing to engage in this 8-week process, I'd like to have a conversation with you to see if it's a fit for you. And the conversation also will include finding out what you would need in terms of what would work for you and being in a program like this in its development stage. So you can schedule a time. I have a link. I think the link is showing up. If it's not in the platform, I'll make sure I put it in there. When you go to the calendar and you don't see a time that works for you, let me know. We'll get it figured out in terms of having the conversation. So thank you again for joining me for this experience, because uh, I'm so geeked about this program and wanting to share it with you. I look forward to sharing with you part 3 next time, um, illustrating a couple in a relationship that is thriving and going to the next level. I'll see you then. Take care.